Good morning. Hand today's going to be King Queen offsuit. We are early position. We have a late poster. He bought in for 40, or maybe rebought for 40. My guess is he bought in for 40. Yeah, that would be my guess. He bought in for 40. We see this. This is ACR. You'll see it. People buy in for short at this 10NL game, and then they just look for like all in spots. I've seen it more and more in the last year or so. 4, 5, 6 years it wasn't all that common. All right, so we've got under the gun raises 3.6. We got 22, 10, 3. Looks like a standard player. Maybe a little on the passive side. Raise first in stats 13%. We do have a limp first in stat at 8%, so we're looking at about 13% when we look at ranges or look at some of the notes. We've got called a 3-bet on the button with or a 3 big blind open with ace-8 of hearts in position, called check, flop top pair, and just basically didn't do a whole lot. We've got called 2 bets in the blinds. We've got limp and called a raise with king 10, queen 9, queen 10. I think he can limp. I think he can raise. This is probably 13%. In terms of raising, you can see 13% here. You've got these broadways that I think might be more limps. So I think with these hands, what we do is I would probably add pocket pairs to his range to keep those in like his limping range, and then you've got your raise first in. Now we're still at 13.7, so with that I'm gonna kind of drop things out, drop things down. Does he? And then the question is, does he have like ace 5? Does he have the rest of the aces? Let's take a look at some of the notes to see if we have it. Limp and called to raise queen 9, queen 10. Okay, we got that taken care of. King 10. Okay, so we can say king jack is probably a raise. That gets us 13%. 13% with those 13.3, 13.6. Oh, maybe doing that. Maybe doing all of the aces. Let's see if he has any limp first in. Limp and called. No, he doesn't. Just kind of decisions. Do we include all the aces or not? Yeah, let's include all the aces for this player, and that's a question. Where are these? Is he raising these first in, or is he limping? Where are the suited connectors? Is he raising first in or limping? Where are the 2s, 3s, and 4s? He's under the gun, and I think normally 2, 3s, and 4s probably aren't raised first in. And same thing with like 5s. I just don't think 5s are raised first in a whole lot. So actually, let's do that. 12.8%. We take the 5s out. We've got that range. We're looking good. I fold. This guy calls. All right, he's a poster. He just calls 2 more bets. He's in late position. We have no stats on him or anything. I'm just putting a range like this. 25% looks good. You've got your suited aces, suited kings. You've got it again. You think about it's only 2 more for him to call, and he's in position. So definitely pocket pairs. We've got a Broadway. What about 3 bets? I'm going to assume that he's a standard 3-better who would always 3-bet queens plus ace king. And I exclude those. Now, gets to the big blind and he 3-bets, and he 3-bets to 14.5, which I think is a pretty decent sized bet. If there's just one caller, I agree. I think 14's okay. You could probably go 12 or 13. With one extra caller, you want to go a little bit larger. After all, this guy, the blind's going to be out of position the entire time. Now he's playing 19-14. His stats, let's get these stats. Looks like he raises a little too much in early position, so maybe takes advantage of the tight image from an early position player, and then tightens up in mid position, cut off and button. So this is kind of an odd way to play it. He could definitely be playing images here. If you 3-bet versus an early position opener, you're normally going to have a pretty decent hand. His 3-bet, though, is we've got 3%, so 8 out of 253. He's definitely 3-bet. He's not really 3-betting a whole lot when we look at his 3-bet. 3-bet ranges. We've got queens, ace queen, ace 10 off. 4-bet range, we've got jacks and ace king suited. Call 3-bet out of position queens. All right, so really it's just the queens, ace queen, ace 10 off, jacks, and ace king. So I did this. This is 4%. This is more than what he's done. But in order to get that ace 10, he's probably also doing ace 10 suited. And if he's going to 4-bet jacks, he's likely going to 3-bet with them. Is that it? Well, no, because I think if he's going to be raising 3-betting with ace 10 or ace jack, he's probably also raising it with 10s, 9s, and 8s. Probably also has king queens at that point. And you can see as we keep adding cards, the number's going up. That does not reflect, that 9% does not reflect the true stat. We've got 253 hands on him where he had an opportunity to 3-bet and he bet 8. That's about 8% or so. We could actually calculate the exact amount, but it's about 3%. So this range doesn't make sense. The ace 10 also doesn't really make a whole lot of sense as to why he's doing that. Maybe he was in the blind versus a steal. He can't do that because normally that shows blind, 3-bet versus steal range. So I still think at 4% we're probably high by including the jack, but I think we have to. I think we have to include jacks plus ace queen, and then assume that ace 10 was maybe just an anomaly. That maybe he was doing like he was playing against a player that was playing a huge number of hands. I think that's all we can kind of do. So we've got this range. Now goes back to under the gun, who calls, and this other guy calls. So I'm going to say this other guy calls. He's last to act. We are going to tighten him up just a little bit. We're going to tighten him up just a little bit. And I think that's probably about it. And say that we're going to go with that. That is his calling range. We still excluded those hands. Now, he did not 4-bet. And we've got hands on him again. So we've got a 4-bet range of jacks to kings. So I'm kind of thinking that he would have 4-bet, or at least most of the time. Let's see if we've got a called 3-bet. Yeah, called 3-bets out of position with jacks. So we're going to scale it and say, maybe 66% of the time, so 2/3 of the time, he would be 4-betting with jacks and queens. I think without a doubt he would be 4-betting kings and aces almost always. We're going to say 50% of the time he would be 4-betting with ace king suited. And I think going back to 66 or 2/3 of the time, we'll do ace king as well. I don't think he's going to be calling with all of these ace-x suited hands. I think that's just probably out. But again, we'll check. Called 3-bets out of position. He's got ace-jack, queen-jack, king-queen off. Sevens. 7-6, queen-9. Okay, well, maybe he would. Maybe he does bet and then call with all of those. I don't think I would, but I guess we'll call with him. Yeah, I guess we'll just go with this range here. We'll just go with this range here. So we see a flop of 7-7-2. That probably misses everyone, believe it or not. I bet you believe it. So 3-better raises. The pot's 44. He bets more than half. He actually bets an amount that's gonna put that guy all in. And really, if villain 14 is going to be calling, he's gonna be basically investing all in at this point. I think this is the decision point in the hand. What do you do? And villain 14 folds. So we're going to go to this guy's range. I think this guy's range probably going to be c-betting 100% here. The ace high is ace king, ace queen. And you can see it's kind of broken down. So almost half of the hands are over pairs. So it's almost 50-50. With two calls, I do think he's going to be aggressive with the ace king, ace queen. I think most people are. C-bet stat kind of is high enough in that range, 70-75%, that I believe he would be betting that. And we had this guy folded, so you could see really it would have just been over pairs that he could have had, maybe sevens. So he's out. This guy calls though, so he's not going to be calling with just junk. He's calling all in at this point. So it's quads, full house, three of kind, over pair. Would he call with like 3, 4, 5, 6s? Probably not. I can't imagine that. But people do call. They say this board probably misses. I'm calling because I don't think you have. I don't think you have an overpair. So we can always, kind of scale it and say, well, maybe 50% of the time he calls. Actually, I'm going to probably say 25%. Most of the time, I think people fold those hands. So that's gonna be his call. So we run it out now with a king and a 9. So at this point, I really do think this guy's probably got the hand locked up. He shows ace 9. He shows queens. So it just kind of fits. His ace 9 just doesn't fit at all. I don't have that in his range. We took it out. Take that out. He calls. We had the 3 of a kind, whatever, but he called with ace 9 of hearts with an ace high. So if he's doing that, he's calling basically as a bluff catch, I guess. And that's just, I don't know, that's kind of bad. Because if you think about it, even if he's c-betting with ace king or ace queen, you've got a low kicker. You've got a 9 kicker. You can't compete with that. So even on the board run out with, 2, 7, 7, and then say 2 more low cards, kicker's going to likely play, and your kicker is crappy. So this guy just awful. I wish we could take a note on him, but it is what it is. So we're going to, on this player, we're going to take a note for his queen. So he 3-bet, probably a squeeze. So we'll say under the gun, RFI 3.6 big blind. Actually, no. We'll say squeeze. I think it was 14.6. 14.6 big blinds versus under the gun, RFI 3 point, and hijack call with queen diamonds, queen clubs. Okay, so he's now out of position. He bet more than 50%, so we'll say like 60%. 60%. Check. And it's not really a check, so we'll just do, we'll just do the dashes. 7 of clubs, 7 of spades, 2 of diamonds, king of spades, 9 of clubs. All right, so we have that. So really, it comes down to this guy. This guy had nothing wrong with his play. Yeah, nothing wrong with his play at all. Queens 3-bet, that's fine. He leads, that's fine. and he led an amount. I really do give him credit for leading the amount that would put hijack all in. That amount was just shy of 50% for villain, 14. So if he's going to come along, he's basically committing his stack. If he doesn't raise now, then you can figure you're getting it in. My guess though is that if it was against this guy, he bets. We'll say he calls and he calls all in. The king comes out, then I bet the queen's checks. I bet the queen's check. Villain has the opportunity to take it, to bet at that point. He could bet. And then what does big blind do? And I think that would be that would have been an interesting hand to discuss, because if he bets, he's kind of representing, yeah, I've got the kings. He's going to think about it. And it really does just kind of come down to how likely is it that he has a king versus how likely is he that he's just taking advantage of my my check. So we could look at some of those stats, which would be like a float bet. So a float normally was always calling a c-bet, calling a c-bet light when you didn't really have anything because you thought the guy was c-betting too much or missed the flop or something like that. But the float here is that the person that had the initiative checks to you, do you bet it? So like the pre-flop raiser checks the flop, and then you have the opportunity to bet. So he does bet that on the flop. On the turn, he bets that like 43%. So yeah, I would say, but on the river, he only had one opportunity. So 3 out of 7 flop is 5 out of 9. So yeah, there's a good possibility that if this guy checks the turn and he bets, I'm kind of thinking the queens will have to call. It's gonna be disgusting. You're gonna be shown a king. You're gonna be shown ace king, some of the time. But with the queen, you're saying, well, I block the king queen. I block ace queen. I don't block ace king at all. And we don't think he really has a king 10 or king jack. I mean, king jack maybe, but doesn't really have that. So I think if you check, you're basically checking to induce the bet. And you're hoping that maybe when he calls, you're kind of putting it. So if you bet and he calls, I'm kind of putting him on an overpair at this point: 8s, 9s, 10s, and jacks. I kind of think aces and kings would have 4-bet. Queens maybe are the same hand. You kind of think maybe queens would have raised on the flop, but never everyone does. So I think that's what I would do. So yeah, kind of to wrap up this hand. Don't know what this guy was doing. Horrible. I guess I don't mind the pre-flop call. Two big blinds in position. He probably could have raised him, 3-bet him himself. Could have 3-bet, he raises, and then he probably fold at that point. But then calling the 3-bet, that's, I guess I see it. You're in position. You're getting pretty decent odds, so I guess I'll give him that. But the flop call was horrible. I don't know what he was thinking. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, you can look tomorrow for another one.